That day was June 15th, and before dawn Zhao Qinyan had already received a call from Shinmachan. Shinmachan's voice on the other end was very low, as if afraid someone might overhear. "Uncle Zhao, I need to tell you something." Zhao Qinyan was in the kitchen at the time, keeping an eye on the servants as they prepared breakfast. Hearing that tone, his heart gave a jolt. Shinmachan usually spoke in a strong, confident manner. When had he ever used a tone like a thief? "President Shin, please go ahead. I'm going abroad for a few days." Zhao Qinyan breathed a sigh of relief. Business trips are normal things. Shinmachan flies around all year. He was used to it. "Okay, President Shin, do you want me to help you collect 10 suitcases?" "No need, I've already packed 10. Shinmachan paused. "This time, it's not a business trip." The spoon in Zhao Qinyan's hand hung in midair. "I went out with Ching, and Ching." Zhao Qinyan knew this name too well. In the past 6 months, the 18-line small model who used to be by Shinmachan's side has been posting ambiguous photos on social media every day. Any perceptive person can tell what's going on. How could Su Wanyi not know? It's just that she has never spoken up about it, so Shinmachan has always assumed she really didn't know. "President Shin, regarding the madam, so that's why I'm calling you." Shinmachan's voice suddenly grew serious. "Uncle Zhao, you've been with the Shin family for 20 years. I've always treated you like family. You must help me with this." Zhao Qinyan's hand holding the phone trembled slightly. He had already vaguely guessed what Shinmachan was going to say. "And I are going to the Maldives for about 7 days. During these 7 days, no one is allowed to tell the wife about this matter. Please manage the servants in the house. I've already told the company, and you should also keep an eye on the wife's social circle. In short, absolutely must not let Wanning know." Zhao Qinyan opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but Shinmachan gave him no chance at all. "I know what you want to say, but I know my limits in this. When I return from Wanning, I will naturally explain to her. For these 7 days, consider that you know nothing." President Shin, his wife "Uncle Zhao, are you going to listen to me or to your wife?" This sentence left Zhao Qinyan stammering, unable to speak. He is the butler of the Shin family, drawing Shin Yukin's salary, so in principle he should listen to Shin Yukin, but for the past 20 years, Su Wanyin has treated him a certain way, and he knows in his heart better than anyone. In the first year of her marriage into the Shin family, Zhao Qinyan's wife fell ill and was hospitalized. Su Wanyin personally contacted the hospital and even advanced all the medical expenses. In the 3rd year, Zhao Qinyan's son needed to study abroad, but couldn't raise enough tuition. Su Wanyin didn't hesitate and lent 500,000. saying it was borrowed and that it would be repaid whenever there's money. In the 7th year, Zhao Qinyan himself found out he had gallstones and needed an operation. Su Wanning ran to the hospital every day, more attentive than a biological daughter, such a wife, and he has to hide things from her like this. Uncle Zhao, are you listening? Listening, then it's settled. Remember, 7 days, you must not let Wanning know at all costs. When I return, I'll make it up to you properly. The line disconnected. Zhao Qinyan stood in the kitchen, looking at the bird's nest porridge bubbling hot in the pot, the one Su Wanning drank every morning. Her stomach wasn't good. The doctor said a bit of bird's nest porridge in the morning would settle her stomach. A maid named Xiaotao carried over a tray and said, Uncle Zhao, the lady's breakfast is ready. Shall I take it up? Zhao Qinyan looked at that bowl of bird's nest porridge and suddenly felt as if a knot of cotton was stuck in his throat. I'll go deliver it. He carried the tray upstairs, each step weighing heavily on him. When he reached the door of the master bedroom on the 2nd floor, he took a deep breath, raised his hand, and knocked. Madam, breakfast is ready. A gentle voice came from the doorway. Come in. Zhao Qinyan pushed the door open and saw that Su Wanning had already woken up, sitting at the dressing table brushing her hair. She wore a light blue silk nightdress, her long hair loose over her shoulders, and sunlight streamed in through the floor-to-ceiling window, enveloping her in a soft halo. To be honest, Zhao Qinyan had never seen a woman more beautiful than Su Wanning. It wasn't the kind of beauty achieved with heavy makeup, but an elegance that radiated from her bones. Her mother came from a famous scholarly family in the Jiangnan region, and her father was the head of the Su group. From a young age she was immersed in refinement, every gesture exuding the demeanor of a noble lady. When she married Shinmachan at first, the whole Jiangqing was stirred. The only daughter of the Su family, spoiled and doted on, marrying into the Shin family with a 2 billion dowry. Who wouldn't envy such a blessing? But Shinmachan didn't seem to think it was a blessing at all. Uncle Zhao, the weather is really nice today. Su Wanning turned her head and smiled at him. That smile was as pure as the sky outside. But Zhao Qinian felt a terrible ache in his heart. Yes, ma'am, the weather is nice today. He placed the tray on the small coffee table, lowering his head and not daring to look Su Wanyan in the eye. He was afraid that if he looked up, he would not be able to hold back from saying everything. Su Wanyan stood up and walked over, picking up the bird's nest porridge and sipping it cautiously. After taking a few sips, she suddenly asked, "Uncle Zhao, did Immersive come back last night?" Zhao Qinian's hand trembled violently, almost dropping the tray lid from his grasp. "No, none, President. Shin should have been working late at the office last night." Su Wanyan softly let out an "oh" and didn't press further. Zhao Qinian secretly glanced at her. Her expression was so calm that nothing could be read, but it was this calm that made Zhao Qinian feel even more uneasy inside. He has known the Shin family for 20 years and knows Su Wanyan too well. This woman never shows her emotions on her face. The calmer she is, the bigger the matter tends to be. "Uncle Zhao, what's wrong with your face doesn't look well." Su Wanyan set the bowl down and looked at him with concern. Nothing, madam. Probably I didn't sleep well last night. Then rest early today and don't tire yourself out." Su Wanyan paused. "By the way, I want to go back to the old Su family residence for a few days in these past 2 days. Please arrange a car for me." Zhao Qinian froze. Does Su Wanyan want to go back to her mother's home at this particular time, too, madam? Why do you suddenly want to return to the Su family?" Su Wanyan picked up the bird's nest porridge and took another sip. In a calm tone, "Not much, just want to go back and take a look. My mom called a couple of days ago saying the garden's gardenia flowers are blooming, to have me come back and smell them. That reason sounds reasonable." Su Wanyan's mother, Grandma Su, loves gardenias the most. The Su family's old residence has a full courtyard planted with them every year in June. When they bloom, the whole courtyard is intoxicatingly fragrant. Zhao Qinian always felt that something was off. "Okay, madam, I'll arrange that right away." He turned to leave, but as he reached the door, Su Wanyan suddenly called out to him again, "Uncle Zhao." Zhao Qinian turned around. Su Wanyan sat by the window, the sunlight tracing a gentle arc along the side of her face. She looked out the window, as if she were enjoying the scenery, or perhaps pondering something. "Nothing much. You go ahead and get busy." Zhao Qinian left the room, gently closing the door. He leaned against the wall in the corridor, his palms all sweaty. Shinmochan asked him to keep it from his wife, but the wife just happened to want to go back to the Su family at this moment. The two things colliding like this, no matter how you look at it, never seem like a coincidence. Could it be that Su Wanyan already knows something? Zhao Qinian shook his head hard, not daring to think further. He could only follow Shinmochan's orders and swallow this secret down his throat, but what he didn't know was that at the moment he carried the tray and walked out of the master bedroom, Su Wanyan's phone screen lit up. The above is a WeChat message. The sender's note name is Private Detective Lao Zhou. The message content is only a few words. "Miss Su, I've captured what you asked for. Chapter 2, ma'am. Would you like me to accompany you back?" Zhao Qinian stood by the car, watching Su Wanyan get into the back seat. "No need, Uncle Zhao. Stay at home. I'll go back and stay a few days and then come back." Su Wanyan rolled down the car window and smiled at him. "By the way, if Immersive asks, tell him I've gone back to the Su family, and don't worry." Zhao Qinian's heart twinged again. Shinmochan is now cuddling his mistress sunbathing in the Maldives. How could he worry about whether you will return to your maternal home? "Yes, madam, take care on the way." The car window slowly rolled up, and the black Bentley drove out of the Shin family villa gates. Zhao Qinian stood at the door, watching the car disappear into the distance, always feeling that there was some meaning in Su Wanyan's words just now that he couldn't hear. What he didn't know was that Su Wanyan had not returned to the old family residence at all after the Bentley drove out of the villa area. Su Wanyan dialed a number. "Hey Zhou, is everything ready?" A middle-aged man's voice came from the other end of the line. "Miss Su, everything is ready. Photos, videos, call records, hotel room records. Over the past 6 months, all the evidence of Shinmosen and that model with the surname An's contacts is here. Okay, see you at the usual place in an hour." Su Wanyan hung up and said to the driver, "Lachin, we won't go to the old Su mansion anymore. Head to the Starbucks on Nanjing West Road." Lachin was the driver Su Wanyan bought from the Su family, who had followed her for more than 10 years. He asked nothing and simply steered the car toward Nanjing West. road. Su Wanning leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes. Actually, she had known it 3 months ago. That day, Shin Machun said he was going on a business trip to Shenzhen, but someone photographed him with a young woman at a hotel in Sanya and posted the photo online. Although Shin Machun had people delete the photo quickly, Su Wanning still saw it. She did not question Shin Machun, and she didn't show any signs of being abnormal. She just quietly contacted a private detective the next day. Then the private detective delivered a thick stack of materials to her. Shin Machun and the female model named In Ching met at a party 6 months ago. Since then, Shin Machun bought her apartment in Pudong, a 400-square-meter riverside luxury flat, valued at 120 million yuan. He also bought her a car, a top-spec Porsche Cayenne, over 3 million yuan. He also gives her a monthly allowance of 500,000 yuan. In the past 6 months, Shin Machun has taken In Ching out to play a total of 12 times under the pretense of business trips: Sanya, Lijiang, Hangzhou, Suzhou, Chengdu, Chongqing, Xi'an, Xiamen, Qingdao, Dalian, Harbin, and Changbai Mountain. They've almost toured all of China. This time is better. I went abroad directly. Maldives, 30 million packages island 7 days. Su Wanning looked at those photos, and strangely, her heart was unusually calm. It's not that she doesn't care, but that she's too clear-sighted. Crying and making a scene solve no problems. She grew up in the Su family since childhood, and the first life principle her father Su Jinghong taught her was, when something happens, don't panic, first assess the situation, then make a decision. So she spent 3 months to see the situation clearly. Shin Machun's heart was no longer on her, and continuing this marriage was meaningless. Since that was the case, all she needed to do was leave with dignity and take away everything that belonged to her. When she first married into the Shin family, Su Jinghong gave her 2 billion in dowry. This money was her premarital property and had nothing to do with Shin Machun. The villa where the Shin family currently lives was bought with her dowry money, and the ownership certificate bears her name. The 5 limited edition sports cars in the garage were also her property. She was married to Shin Machun for 5 years and never spent a penny of the Shin family's money. On the contrary, when the Shin group faced a funding crisis 3 years ago, she lent 100 million cash to help Shin Machun get through the hard times. Shin Machun may have forgotten this, but she has not forgotten. The Bentley stopped at the Starbucks entrance on Nanjing West Road. Su Wanning got out and went in, and Lao Zhou was already sitting by the window waiting for her. Lao Zhou was a man in his 50s, ordinary looking, wearing ordinary clothes, blending into the crowd so you wouldn't be able to spot him, but that was precisely why Su Wanning chose him. He was low-key enough, and meticulous in his work. Miss Su, the items are all here. Lao Zhou pushed a brown craft paper envelope toward her. Su Wanning opened the envelope. Inside was a stack of photos and a USB drive. The photos showed Shin Machun and In Ching embracing, smiling as if they were flowers. There were hotel registration records, screenshots of call logs, and even In Ching's boastful photos posted on her Moments, Maldives over Waterby Villa, with the caption watching the most beautiful sea with the person I love most. Su Wanning, after reading it, repacked the items back into the envelope. Old Zhou, if we go through legal channels, will this evidence be enough? Old Zhou pushed up his glasses. It's enough. This evidence can prove that Shin Machun cohabited with another person during the marriage, constituting a serious fault. If you sue for divorce, you can not only get back all your premarital property, but also claim damages. That's good then. Su Wanning pulled out a check from her bag and pushed it over. This is your reward, twice what we agreed. You've worked hard these 3 months. Old Zhou glanced at the amount on the check, his eyes widening. Miss Su, this is too much. Not too much. You're worth this price. Su Wanning stood up. Also, I don't want anyone to know about this matter. Do you understand what I mean? Miss Su, don't worry. In our line of work, mouths are the tightest. Su Wanning nodded, then turned and walked out of the Starbucks. After getting back in the car, she didn't let Lao Chen drive right away. Instead, she sat in the back seat and took out her phone to browse through her contacts. She found a name, Attorney Zhou. Attorney Zhou is the chief legal advisor of the Su Group, an old friend of Su Jinghong. He has spent 30 years in the legal field, handling numerous cases, well over 1,800. The phone rang twice and then connected. Uncle Zhou, it's me, Wanning. On the other end, Lawyer Zhou's voice came through in surprise. Wanning, Why did you think of calling Uncle Zhou? Has that kid Shinmochin bullied you? Su Wanning smiled a little. It seemed that these elders who had watched her grow up from childhood didn't seem to have much fondness for Shinmochin. Uncle Zhou, there is something I'd like you to help me with. You say it. Uncle Zhou will help you with anything. I want a divorce. There was a full 10 seconds of silence on the other end of the line. Then Lawyer Zhou's voice turned serious. Wanning, are you sure about this? Yes. What did Shinmochin do? Cheat. It started half a year ago. The other party is a model. Now he is honeymooning in the Maldives with that model. Lawyer Zhou took a deep breath. This damn thing. Your dad said back then that he isn't reliable, and you just wouldn't listen. Su Wanning didn't respond. When she decided to marry Shinmochin initially, Su Xinghong indeed opposed it. Not because of family background, but because Su Xinghong felt Shinmochin was too pragmatic, not genuinely good to Su Wanning, but Su Wanning at that time was swept up in love and couldn't hear anything else. Thinking back now, it was Dad who was right. Uncle Zhou, let's not talk about the past. I need you to help me with a few things now. Go ahead. First, help me tally all my premarital assets, including that villa, 5 sports cars, cash deposits, and that 200 million dowry. I need a detailed list of assets. No problem, I'll have it to you within 2 days. Second, help me list that villa with an agent. Price set 1/10 below the market price. Full cash transaction required, and the transfer must be completed within 7 days. Lawyer Zhou froze for a moment. You want to sell the villa, Wanning? That house? Uncle Zhou, that house was bought with my dowry. The ownership certificate only has my name. I have the right to dispose of it. Fine, I'll help you handle it. Third, help me draft a divorce agreement. The content is simple. I don't want Shinmochin to have a penny of my property, but he also won't be able to take anything from me. I'll take all 20 billion dowry. The money from selling the villa also goes to me, and I don't want a single thing from the Shin family. Lawyer Zhou listened and let out a long sigh on the other end of the line. Wanning, have you decided? I've thought about it for 3 months and I've thought it through clearly. All right. Uncle Zhou will help you, but Wanning, I have to remind you of something. I know Shinmochin well. He won't easily let you go, especially that 200 million dowry. He certainly doesn't want to spit it out. Su Wanning watched the crowds passing by outside the car window, a faint curve tugging at the corner of her mouth. Uncle Zhou, rest assured, I'll find a way to get him to sign. After hanging up the phone, Su Wanning said to Lao-Chen, go back to the old residence of the Su family now. The car restarted and headed toward the old residence of the Su family. Su Wanning leaned back in her seat, took out her phone from her bag, and opened a folder. It was a list she had organized over the past 3 months, detailing every penny Shinmochin had spent on Qinghua over the past 6 months: buying a house, 120 million yuan, buying a car, 3,610,000 yuan, buying bags, jewelry, clothes, conservatively over 8 million yuan. This trip to the Maldives is a fortune of 30 million when you add up the scraps and fragments. Over the past 6 months, Shinmochin has spent at least 150 million on Qing. Su Wanning looked at this number and suddenly found it funny. 5 years ago, when Shinmochin married her, he didn't even spare money for a decent wedding. He said, we must stay low-key. The wedding is just a form, and in the end it only held 20 tables of banquets at a hotel, and even the wedding dress was paid for by her. Back then she naively thought Shinmochin was frugal, a good man who knows how to live within his means. Now that she thinks about it, he wasn't frugal, he just felt it wasn't worth spending money on her. The car stopped in front of the Su family's old residence. When Su Wanning got off the car, she smelled the gardenia fragrance wafting from the yard. Grandma Su really didn't lie to her. This year the gardenias bloomed particularly well. She stood at the doorway, took a deep breath, and then pushed open the iron gate and went in. In the courtyard, Su Xinghong was sitting in a wicker chair, drinking tea and reading a newspaper. When he saw his daughter return, the old man's eyes brightened at once. Wanning, you're back, Dad. Su Wanning walked over and sat down beside her father. Su Xinghong put down the newspaper and looked closely at his daughter's face. You've lost weight. Have you been wronged in the Shin family? With just this sentence, Su Waning's eyes suddenly reddened. She had been pretending to be fine for 3 months in the Shin family, pretending in front of Zhao Qinian, pretending in front of the servants, pretending in front of everyone, but in front of her own father, she suddenly couldn't keep up the act. Dad, I want a divorce. Su Xinghong's hand paused briefly. He looked at his daughter, silent for a long moment, then reached out and gently patted Su Waning's hand. Then go ahead and leave. If you insisted on marrying back then, I couldn't stop you. Now if you want to leave, I'll support you. Su Wanming's tears finally fell. Dad. I'm sorry. I should have listened to you back then. Silly child, what are you saying sorry for to Daddy? Su Xinghong pulled his daughter into his arms. It's okay, just come home. No matter what decision you make, I'm on your side. Gardenia flowers are in full bloom in the yard, and the rich fragrance fills the air. Su Wanning leaned against his father's shoulder, silently telling herself in her heart, Shenmacheng, this is the last time you'll disappoint me. Chapter 3. But he didn't know at that time, the day after Su Wanning returned to the Su family, lawyer Zhou delivered the list of assets. The list was very detailed, with every asset listed clearly. Su Wanming's premarital assets totaled about 2 billion, including the Riverside Villa is valued at 180 million yuan on the market, 5 limited edition sports cars add up to 460 million yuan, bank cash deposits amount to 300 million yuan, stocks and funds total 300 million yuan, and the 2 billion dowry that Su Xinghong gave at the time. This money has been kept in a separate trust account, and over the past 5 years Su Wanming hasn't touched it at all. Lawyer Zhou pushed up his glasses. Wanming, according to the prenuptial agreement, all these properties belong to you personally. Shenmacheng has no right to claim anything. Okay. Su Wanming finished reading the list, then looked up. Is the villa up for sale? It was connected yesterday afternoon. I contacted the 3 largest brokerage companies, and the price was set at 100,600,000 yuan, which is 20 million less than the market price. This morning, 5 buyers had already called to inquire. Full payment transaction, transfer within 7 days. Did you make this clear to them? I did. 3 buyers said they could pay in full. One of them is the owner of a foreign trade business, based in Shanghai, and could view the house this afternoon. Su Wanming nodded, then arranged for him to view the house this afternoon, at 3 in the afternoon that same day. Su Wanming personally took the foreign trade boss to view the villa. The boss's surname is Qian, in his 40s, engaged in import-export business. After circling the villa once, his eyes brightened. Miss Su, are you really selling this house for 100,006,000? Really? May I ask why you're in such a hurry? Su Wanming stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the Huangpu River outside, with a tone, it's nothing, just want to move somewhere else. Boss Qian is also a sensible person. He knows that these luxury mansion owners all have their own reasons, and what shouldn't be asked, he doesn't ask. That's a deal. I'll take this house. We can sign the contract today, and the full payment will arrive tomorrow. I'll have the lawyer handle the transfer procedures, guaranteed to be completed within 7 days. Deal. That afternoon, Su Wanming signed the house purchase contract with Boss Qian. The next morning, 100 million yuan in full payment had been deposited into her account. She stood at the door of the bank, looking at the arrival notification on her phone, her heart so calm that even she found it surprising. 5 years ago, when she bought this villa, it was Shenmacheng who came with her. At that time, Shenmacheng was still a young president who had just taken over the family business, full of vigor, holding her hand in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, saying, Wanming, from now on this will be our home. She believed it, so she spent a full 3 months decorating this villa. Every piece of flooring was chosen by her personally, every lamp she carried back from overseas, and every flower and blade of grass in the yard she planted herself. Now that I think about it, it's really ridiculous. Shenmacheng spent the past 6 months taking in Qing to live in hotels, in new houses, in places without any trace of her. He had never considered this home. What meaning does she guard this home for anymore? The day after selling the villa, Su Wanming went to the car dealership. Again, all 5 sports cars were under her name, and she usually let Shenmacheng drive more than she did, especially the red Ferrari LaFerrari. Shenmacheng liked it in particular, and he would always take it out to show off at car clubs. After the car dealership owner inspected the cars, he offered a packaged price, 38 million. Su Wanming gave no objection and agreed right away, after signing the transfer contract. The car dealer couldn't help but ask, Miss Su, all these cars are in excellent condition. Are you sure you're selling all of them? All sold out. Then what will you drive yourself? Su Wanming smiled a little. I'll take a taxi. When she walked out of the dealership, she looked up at the sky. The Shanghai sky was as gray and gloomy as ever, and the sun could not be seen. She took out her phone and scrolled through moments, and Qing posted a new update again. The sunset in the Maldives, with the caption to win one heart, to grow old together and never part. There was also Shinmochan's like below. Su Weining looked at it for 3 seconds, then put away her phone and got into Lao Chen's car. Wife, where are you going? Old Chen asked. Back to the Su family. When the car drove onto the elevated road, Su Wanyan's phone rang. It was Zhao Qinyan calling. Wife, when are you coming back? Zhao Qinyan's voice sounded a bit uneasy. Su Wanyan leaned back in her seat. What's wrong, Uncle Zhao? Is there something at home? No. Nothing. It's just that President Shin hasn't been back these days, and I'm a little worried about you. Su Wanyan smiled silently. Zhao Qinyan was testing whether she knew where Shinmochan had gone. Uncle Zhao, don't worry, I'm living quite well at the Su family house. By the way, if Imochan calls back, tell him I'll be back in a few days. Yes, madam. After hanging up, Zhao Qinyan paced back and forth in the living room of the Shin family villa, as anxious as ants on a hot stove. Before Shinmochan left, he asked him to keep it from his wife, but now the wife has gone to her mother's house, and Shinmochan's calls won't go through. He, stuck in the middle, was about to go mad. Just at this moment, the doorbell rang. Zhao Qinyan opened the door and saw it was a real estate agent. Hello, we're from XX Real Estate, MS. Su entrusted us to conduct a house appraisal. Zhao Qinyan was stunned. What house appraisal, MS? Su had already sold this villa to Mr. Qian yesterday, and the transfer procedures are in progress. We come today to conduct a final house condition assessment. Zhao Qinyan only felt a buzzing in his head. He couldn't hear anything at all. The villa was sold. His wife sold the villa. He almost charged back to the living room to grab the phone and dialed Shinmochan's number. It took a long time for the call to connect, and the lazy voice of Shinmochan came through. Zhao Shu, what's the matter? President Shin, the wife, she sold the villa. There was a 3-second silence on the other end. What did you say? The wife has sold the villa. Just now the real estate agent came, saying that the wife sold the villa yesterday to a boss with the surname Qian for a total of 100,006,000, and it's currently undergoing transfer. Shinmochan's voice suddenly rose. What right does she have to sell the villa? That villa is... He stopped in the middle of his sentence, because he remembered that villa really was bought with Su Wanning's dowry, and the property deed only listed Su Wanning's name. Where is she? The Madam has returned to the old house in the Su family. She's been gone for 2 days. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Zhao Qinyan held the microphone, his mouth open to speak, but he couldn't say anything. Aren't you the one who told me to keep it from my wife? Didn't you say no one should mention to my wife that you went abroad? Now you come to ask me why I didn't tell you sooner. Shinmochan let out a deep sigh on the other end of the line. I will book a ticket back right away. You go to the Su family immediately and find a way to delay Wanning, so she won't do anything more out of line. President Shin, even the fastest flight from Maldives would take several hours to return, then book me the earliest flight. The phone clicked dead. Zhao Qinyan stood holding the receiver, suddenly feeling like a fool. Shinmochan asked him to keep it from his wife, and he did. The wife wants to return to the Su family, and he helped haul 10 suitcases. The wife sold the villa, and he was the last to know. From start to finish, he was the fool kept in the dark. And at this moment, inside the water villa in the Maldives, after Shinmochan hung up the phone, his face turned pale as he began to pack his luggage. Anchin walked out of the bathroom and saw him packing things up, and froze. Imochan, what are you doing? Return to home country, now. Our vacation has only just started 3 days ago. Shinmochan didn't look up. Wanning sold the villa. I have to go back immediately. And Qing's expression changed. On what basis can she sell the villa? Isn't that villa your wedding house? That was bought before her marriage, and it was in her name. And Qing bit her lip and, after a while, said, does she know? Shinmochan paused his movements and turned his head to look at her, and Qing was startled by his gaze. Why are you looking at me like that? I haven't told anyone anything. Shinmochan finished saying that, picked up the suitcase, and headed out, and Qing chased after. Then what should I do? You buy your own plane ticket back, Shinmochan. Shinmochan had already walked out of the villa, not looking back, and Qing stood at the doorway, watching his silhouette disappear into the palm trees, so angry that she slammed her phone onto the ground. She had finally managed to climb onto this big tree of Shinmochan, and now she was in a critical moment. She absolutely must not let Su Wanning ruin her plans, and Qing took a deep breath, bent down to pick up the phone, and scrolled through a number. Hey, help me find someone. Su Weining, Shinmochan's wife. I want to know what she's been doing recently. A hoarse voice came from the other end of the line. Missin, searching for Mrs. Shin isn't cheap. Money is not a problem. I want it fast. I understand. And Qing hung up the phone. gazing at the distant sea, a trace of fierceness flashing in her eyes. Su Wanning, you can want a divorce, but you want to take away 2 billion as a dowry. Dream on. Chapter 4. 8 hours of flight. Shin Machin didn't close his eyes for a moment. The only thing racing through his mind was Su Wanning selling the villa. That villa was indeed Su Wanning's dowry, but over the past 5 years he had long treated that place as his own home. More importantly, the villa held many important documents in the study, including some business contracts of the Shin Group. If those things fall into other people's hands, the consequences would be unimaginable. When the plane landed at Pudong Airport, it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. Shin Machin came out from the VIP channel, and Zhao Qinian was already waiting at the exit. President Shin, what about the villa? Who is the buyer? Where is Wan Ningren? Zhao Qinian, as he quickened his pace to catch up with Shin Machin, said, the buyer's surname is Qian. He runs a foreign trade business. The intermediary said the contract has been signed, the full payment has been made, and the transfer procedures will be completed the day after tomorrow. His wife is still at the Su family's old residence. I went there this afternoon, but she wouldn't see me. Shin Machin's steps suddenly halted. She won't see you. Yes. The Su family's butler came out and said the lady is unwell and won't see guests. Shin Machin's face darkened terribly. Is Su Wanning's body not feeling well? She just sold the villa yesterday, and she's unwell today. This is clearly avoiding him. Go to Su family, now. Zhao Qinian looked at his watch. President Shin, it's already past 2 in the morning. I said go to Su family. The black Maybach drove toward the Su family's old residence in the night. When the car stopped at the gate, the entire house was already dark. Only the 2 lanterns at the entrance were still lit. Shin Machin got out of the car to press the doorbell, and it took a long time before someone came to open the door. Opening the door was the Su family's housekeeper, Grandma He, an elderly woman who had worked for the Su family for 30 years. Grandma He, I'm here to see Wan Ning. Mother. He stood in the doorway, wearing a polite smile, but she wouldn't part. Sir, it's so late. The young lady has fallen asleep. Please come back tomorrow if you have business. I have something urgent. Even urgent matters can wait until dawn. Right. The young lady hasn't been well for a while. She finally managed to fall asleep. Please don't disturb her. Shin Machin took a deep breath, suppressing his temper, and said, then let me go in and sit for a while. I'll wait for her in the living room. And his smile remained unmoved. Master, the old master has ordered that no one disturb the young lady when she's resting. If you want to wait, you can wait in the car, but going in, I'm afraid that won't do. These words were already spoken quite bluntly. Shin Machin clenched his fists. In the Shin family, he never swallows such a bit of sourness. When had he ever endured this kind of treatment? But this is the Su family. He doesn't dare to act presumptuously. Although Su Xinghong has already retreated to the second line, the Su family's influence in Jiangqing is deeply rooted. If they truly clash, the Shin family won't gain any advantage. Fine, I'll come again tomorrow. Shin Machin turned back to the car and slammed the car door shut. Head back to the Shin family villa. The car started again. Zhao Qinian glanced at Shin Machin secretly through the rearview mirror, only to see his face pallid and his fists clenched so hard that they creaked. President Shin, why don't we return to the company first? The villa area is all ready. I said go back to the villa. Zhao Qinian no longer dared to speak. When the car arrived at the gate of the original Shin family villa, Shin Machin froze. On the sign at the villa entrance, where the 2 characters Shin Estate had originally been written, someone had replaced them with Shin Estate. The main gate had been changed to a new password lock, and his fingerprint and password were all invalid. He stood at the doorway and suddenly felt like a fool. He had lived in this villa for 5 years, yet today he couldn't even get through the door. Mr. Shin, why don't we find a hotel to stay in for now? Zhao Qinian asked cautiously. Shin Machin said nothing. He pulled out his phone and dialed Su Wanning's number. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. He dialed again. This time it directly indicated, the number you have dialed is powered off. Shin Machin held his phone, standing at what used to be his doorstep, and for the first time felt what it means to be powerless. In the past 6 months, while he was living a reckless life away from home, he never thought there would be today. He thought Su Wanning would always be waiting at home for him, just like in the past 5 years. No matter how late he came back, the living room light would always be on, and Su Wanning would always be sitting on the sofa waiting for him. He thought Su Wanning would never leave him, but he was Wrong. Zhao Qinian stood by, watching Shinmochan's back, his heart full of mixed feelings. He had followed Shinmochan for 20 years, since Shinmochan was still the young master of the Shin family. He had seen Shinmochan full of vigor land his first big deal, and he had seen Shinmochan's ruthless decisiveness in the business world, but he had never seen Shinmochan like this, like a discarded child. President Shin, I'll go book a hotel for you. Zhao Qinian had just turned around when Shin Machan suddenly spoke. Uncle Zhao, when did she start changing? Zhao Qinian stopped in his tracks and looked back. Shin Machan was still standing at the door, looking at the door he couldn't open. Wan Ning, she wasn't like this before. No matter how late I got home, she would wait for me. When I was away on a business trip for half a month, she wouldn't complain a word. This time I just went out for a few days. How did she sell the house? Zhao Qinian fell silent for a long time, and finally couldn't hold back. President Shin, the madam has been eating dinner alone every day for these 3 months. Shin Machan turned his head abruptly. What? In the past 6 months, you have eaten at home fewer than 10 times in total. Your wife has the kitchen make a full table of dishes every night, but you've never returned once. Later, the wife stopped letting the kitchen cook, and she herself hardly eats anything anymore. I've watched her lose at least 10 pounds in these 3 months. Shin Machan opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. Zhao Qinian continued. Also, last month was your wife's birthday. You said you would come back for a meal. Your wife was overjoyed and personally cooked a full table of dishes, but you had to cancel at the last minute, and your wife sat alone in the dining room, facing a table of dishes for 2 whole hours. I don't know. You certainly don't know. Because that day you and Missin were in Sonya. The sentence was like a knife, direct stabbing into Shin Machan's heart. He remembered, on Su Weining's birthday last month, he had indeed said he would go home, but Ching called him, saying she missed him, and he immediately booked a flight to Sonya. That night, Ching celebrated his birthday at a hotel in Sonya for him. Not quite, it was the day he was celebrating Su Weining's birthday, and he was the one celebrating Ching's. Ching said she also had a birthday that day, and he believed it. Thinking back now, how could such a coincidence happen? Once more, Zhao Qinian's voice became a little choked. Mrs. Wei had a stomach ulcer attack. She was in so much pain she broke into a sweat. I called you. You said you were in a meeting and hung up. Later, Mrs. Wei herself called for an ambulance. She stayed in the hospital alone for 3 days. During those 3 days you didn't make a single call. Shin Machan's lips trembled slightly. He did remember once that Zhao Qinian called to say Su Weining was not feeling well, but at that moment he was with Ching trying on a dress, so he hung up casually. Later Ching asked him who had called, and he said it was a company matter. Then he forgot about it, completely forgot. Uncle Zhao, why didn't you tell me these things sooner? Zhao Qinian gave a wry smile. President Shin, have you given me a chance to speak? In the past 6 months, every time you came back, you left in less than half an hour. I never even had a chance to talk to you. Shin Machan fell silent. Yes. In the past 6 months, he probably spent less than 24 hours at home in total. He was busy keeping company with Ching, busy savoring the thrill of a new romance, busy spending money and time on Ching. He had never imagined that there would be someone waiting for him at home, because he was used to it, used to Su Weining always being there, used to her tolerance and waiting, used to taking her contributions for granted. Go to the hotel. Shin Machan's voice turned hoarse. Zhao Qinian quickly pulled open the car door and helped him into the car. When the car drove away from the villa area, Shin Machan looked back one last time. That door he couldn't open, that home he couldn't return to, that wife he had pushed away with his own hands. He suddenly felt something crack inside him. That feeling was strange, not anger, not unwillingness, but a deep, indescribable emptiness. It's as if a very important part of the body has been stripped away by someone. Uncle Zhao, do you think she will come back? Zhao Qinian gripped the steering wheel without answering, because he didn't know the answer either. Chapter 5. Early the next morning, Shin Machan went to the old Su family residence. This time he didn't ring the doorbell, but stood at the doorway waiting. He waited from 7 in the morning until 10 in the morning, standing for a full 3 hours. Finally, the big door of the Su family opened. The person who came out was Mother He, her expression somewhat better than last night. Sir, the old master wants you to go in. Shin Machan followed Madame He into the living room of the Su family's old mansion. Su Xinghong was sitting in the main seat, holding a cup of tea in his hand, his expression unreadable. Have a seat. Shin Machan sat down opposite Su Xinghong. He was about to speak when Su Xinghong raised his hand to stop him. Don't rush to speak. Listen to this first. Su Xinghong picked up a craft paper envelope on the table, pulled out a stack of photos from it, and laid them one by one in front of Shinmacheng. Those photos were too familiar to Shinmacheng. He and Ching were hugging at the lobby of a hotel in Sanya. He and Ching were holding hands by the West Lake in Hangzhou. He and Ching were feeding each other at a hot pot restaurant in Chengdu. He and Ching were kissing on the balcony of a water villa in the Maldives. Each one was photographed so clearly that there was no way to deny it. Shinmacheng's face slowly turned pale. "Dad, don't call me Dad." Su Xinghong's voice wasn't loud, but every word pierced Shinmacheng's ears like a nail. "From the first day you took that woman abroad, you lost the right to call me Dad." Lowered his head. "I know I did wrong, but I want to see Wan Ning. Let me see her. I'll explain to her." "What explanation?" Su Xinghong sneered. "Explain that you were forced to bring your mistress abroad for a honeymoon. Explain the 150 million you spent on that woman over the past 6 months as business entertainment." "Shinmacheng, do you think our Su family are fools?" Abruptly looked up, his pupils rapidly constricting. He didn't expect Su Xinghong to know exactly how much he had spent. Su Xinghong stood up, pulled out a stack of documents from a nearby drawer, and tossed them in front of Shinmacheng. "This is Wan Ning's premarital property list. The villa, the sports car, the cash, the stocks, and that 2 billion dowry, all together, totaling 22 billion. Shinmacheng's hands began to tremble. "According to the premarital agreement you signed, all these assets belong entirely to Wan Ning. She's simply taking back what belongs to her. What right do you have to come to the Su family for people? I don't want property." Shinmacheng stood up abruptly. "I just want to see Wan Ning. I don't want her money. I only want her back." Su Xinghong looked at him, his eyes full of disappointment. "Well, Shinmacheng, you still don't understand. Wan Ning has never cared about that money. What she cares about is you as a person. But you, what have you done to her? A decoration kept at home, a backdrop that can be put back any time." Shinmacheng's throat seemed blocked by something, and he couldn't utter a word. Su Xinghong sat back in his chair, picked up his teacup, and took a sip. "Wan Ning won't see you. She asked me to tell you one thing. The divorce agreement has been drafted, and lawyer Zhou will contact you. After you sign, you two will be square." "I won't sign." Shinmacheng almost shouted. "I won't divorce. Kill me if you want. I won't leave. That's your business." Su Xinghong set down his teacup. "Lawyer Zhou said that if you don't agree to divorce by agreement, you can go through litigation. When the time comes, the evidence of your affair will be made public in court, and all the money you spend on that woman will be unearthed. How low the Shinsher Group's stock price will fall, you can assess for yourself." Shinmacheng stood rigid as if struck by lightning. Unmoving in place, he had never heard Su Xinghong speak like this. In his impression, Su Xinghong had always been that refined father-in-law, speaking slowly and meticulously, courteous to him, but the man standing before him now had a gaze as sharp as a blade, every word aimed straight at the core. This is the real Su Xinghong, the Su family head who has dominated the business world for 30 years. Shinmacheng suddenly understood. Su Xinghong had been polite to him before because Su Wanming still loved him. Now that Su Wanming no longer loves him, Su Xinghong naturally no longer needs to spare him any face. Shinmacheng's voice became hoarse. "Let me see Wanming once, just once. After I see her, whatever she asks me to sign, I'll sign it." Su Xinghong gazed at him for a long time, then finally stood up, walked to the stairwell, and yelled upward, "Come down." Light footsteps drifted up the stairs. Shinmosen looked up and saw Su Wanming. She was wearing a white dress, her hair casually draped over her shoulders, and she wore no makeup on her face. Sunlight streamed in from the window at the corner of the stairwell, falling onto her, making her look pale and delicate, like a watercolor painting. She had thinned a lot. This is Shinmachen's first reaction. In the past, Su Wanming's cheeks were round, but now her chin has become sharp and pointed. That dress used to fit snugly, but now it hangs loosely on her, as if she had grown a size. Wanming. Shinmachen wanted to step forward, but Su Xinghong pinned him to the spot with a single glance. Su Wanming walked down the stairs and sat on the sofa opposite Shinmacheng. Her expression was very calm, so calm that it made Shinmacheng uneasy. "Wanming, I was wrong." Shinmacheng's voice cracked with tears. "I really know I'm in the wrong. Will you go home with me? I promise I'll never do it again." Su Wanming looked at him. There was no hatred in her eyes, no resentment, only a very faint, tired weariness. "Macheng, do you remember what you said to me on the day we got married?" Shinmacheng froze. "You say, Wanming, I will make you the happiest woman in the world in the future." Su Wanming smiled softly. "I believed it at the time. I really believed it. But in these 5 years, have you ever made me happy? Su Wanan's voice was still soft. In the first year of marriage, you said the company was, note, Chinese word busy, and the honeymoon trip was cancelled. In the second year, you said you wanted to fight for your career. At our anniversary you were bartering at the wine table with someone. In the third year of marriage, your company faced a crisis. I gave you 100 million yuan in cash to turn things around, and you didn't even say thank you. She paused, then continued, in the fourth year of our marriage, you started coming home less often. When I called you, you always said you were in a meeting. In the fifth year of our marriage, you met in Qing's body trembled suddenly at the name in Qing. I knew it 3 months ago, Su Weining said. Someone posted your photos in Sonya online, and I saw them. Then I hired a private detective and found out everything about you and in Qing over the past 6 months. She took a USB drive from a bag by her side and placed it on the coffee table. Inside is all the evidence, photos, videos, hotel booking records, call logs, and the bank flow for the transfer you made to Qing. In the past 6 months you spent 153 million on her. Shinmochin, you're really generous. Shinmochin's face turned as white as paper. I spent 3 months watching you repeatedly tell me you were on business trips, and then repeatedly appear with her in cities across the country. I watched you buy her houses, cars, bags, and jewelry, and thought of the fact that even our wedding ring was bought with my own money. Su Wanning looked down at her left hand. The diamond ring on her ring finger was still there. She had bought it herself for 80,000. Do you know how I got through these 3 months? Shinmochin's tears finally fell. I'm sorry, Wanning, I'm sorry. Su Wanning shook her head gently. There is no need to apologize. I've already figured everything out in the past 3 months. If you want Anqing, I'll give you. If you want freedom, I'll give you as well. But I'm taking what belongs to me. I don't care about that money. Shinmochin suddenly looked up. The villa, you can sell it if you want. The dowry, you can take it away. I don't want anything. I only want you back. Su Wanning gazed at him quietly, and for a moment, there was a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, but it was only for a moment. Machin, it's too late. Too late for what? As long as you're willing to come back, it's never too late. Su Wanning stood up, walked to the window, and gazed at the old tree in the yard that was covered with gardenia blossoms. Do you know what the meaning of gardenia is? Shinmochin doesn't know. It's waiting. Su Wanning's voice drifted from the window. The gardenia blooms only once a year, with a flowering period of just half a month. For the remaining 11.5 months, it remains in wait, waiting for the next summer, waiting for another bloom. She turned to look at Shinmochin. I waited for you for 5 years. That's enough. Shinmochin's tears couldn't stop flowing down. He wanted to say something, but his throat felt like it had been stuffed with cotton, and not a single word could be spoken. The divorce agreement will be sent to you by lawyer Zhou, if you've read it, and there's no problem, sign it. I want nothing of the Shin family's possessions, and you can't touch anything from the Su family either. From now on, we are square. After saying this, Su Wanqing turned and went upstairs. Shinmochin wanted to chase after her, but was stopped by Su Jinghong. The words have been spoken very clearly. You should leave, Dad. I told you, don't call me Dad. Su Jinghong's voice was as cold as winter ice. Shinmochin stood in the living room of the Su family house. Watching Su Wanning's back vanish around the corner of the stairs, he wanted to call out her name, but his mouth opened and no sound came out. In the end, it was Zhao Qinyan who came in to help him out. When they walked out of the Su family gate, Shinmochin turned to look back at that old house. The lilac blossoms were in full bloom, and the fragrance was so strong it nearly overwhelmed a person. He suddenly recalled the day 5 years ago when he married Su Wanning, the lilac flower hairpin on Su Wanning's head back then. She smiled with her eyes curved and said to him, Machin, every year when lilac flowers bloom, you must accompany me to see them. 5 years, and he has never accompanied her to watch even once. Zhao Qinyan supported Shinmochin as they got into the car. President Shin, where are we going now? Shinmochin leaned back in the seat and closed his eyes. Back to the hotel. When the car started, his phone rang. It was Anqing calling. He looked at the name flashing on the screen, and suddenly those 2 characters stabbed his eyes painfully. He did not answer. The phone rang for a long time, and finally it hung up automatically. Then Anqing sent a WeChat message. Machin, when are you coming back? I miss you. Shinmochin looked at this message, but his mind was filled with the sentence Su Wanning had just spoken. I've waited for you 5 years. That's enough. He deleted Anqing's WeChat, then moved her number into the blacklist. Zhao Qinyan saw this. seen in the rearview mirror and couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. If I had known it would end up like this, there would have been no need for the beginning. Chapter 6. 3 days after Shinmochan blocked her, and Qing returned from the Maldives. After returning to the country, the first thing she did was not go home but head straight to the old Su family mansion. That afternoon, Su Wanyan was sitting in the courtyard drinking tea when Yima came in and said that a woman at the gate wanted to see her. She says her name is Anqing. Su Wanyan paused slightly while holding the teacup, then smiled. Let her in, and he hesitated a bit. Miss, that woman comes with ill intent. It's fine, and he let her in. When Qing walked into the courtyard, Su Wanyan was sitting on a rattan chair under the osmanthus tree. She wore a light blue cotton linen long dress, her hair loosely gathered with a hairpin, holding a cup of Longjing tea, looking lazy and composed, and Qing looked at her, and an indescribable jealousy suddenly welled up in her heart. She had originally thought Su Wanyan would look like a sickly, yellow-faced woman. After all, Shinmochan hadn't come home much this past half-year, surely because his wife wasn't good enough compared to what she imagined. Su Wanyan is much more beautiful in person. It's not the kind of heavily made-up beauty, but a beauty that radiates from within. A temperament that won't strive for attention. It's like the garden's gardenias here. They don't need to vie for attention, simply quietly blooming, and they're enough to catch anyone's eye. Missin, please sit. Su Wanyan pointed to the rattan chair opposite, her tone as flat as if she were greeting an ordinary guest. Anqing sat down and surveyed the courtyard. The Su family's old residence is of Jiangnan garden architecture, with blue bricks and dark tiles, winding paths and corridors. The courtyard is filled with gardenias, their fragrance refreshing and soothing. Just this courtyard alone is priceless. Miss Su, I came to talk to you about Emochan. Su Wanyan picked up the teacup and took a light sip. You say it, and Qing took a deep breath. I know you and Emochan haven't divorced yet, but you've also seen that he has been with me these past 6 months. The person he loves is me, not you. Su Wanyan set down her teacup and looked at Qing, her eyes carrying a hint of pity. Missin, how old are you this year? And Qing was startled. 25. 25. Su Wanyan nodded. 3 years younger than me. So young. She paused. Do you know what I was doing when I was 25? And Qing frowned. I don't care what you were doing at 25. I'm here to talk to you about Emochan. When I was 25, I married Shinmochan. Su Wanyan spoke on by herself. Back then, just like you, I thought love was the greatest thing in the world. For him, I could give up the identity of being the eldest daughter of the Su family. I could put forward a 20 billion dowry to support his image. I could endure his parents' picky eyes and coldness. As she spoke, she smiled softly. Missin, do you know where the money Shinmochan spent on you in the past half-year came from? And Qing's expression changed slightly. 15,300,000. When Su Wanyan spoke this number, her tone was as calm as if she were discussing today's weather. Of that amount, at least 100 million was money I pulled from my dowry when the Shin Group faced a liquidity crisis 3 years ago. To help him get through it, in other words, some of the money he spent on you came from me. And Qing's face reddened. You're talking nonsense. Do you think I'm lying? Go ask Shinmochan and you'll know. Su Wanyan lifted the teacup and took another sip. But you probably won't be able to ask. He's already blocked you, isn't he? This sentence was like a needle, directly piercing in Qing's most painful place. She really had been blocked by Shinmochan since returning from the Maldives. Her calls to Shinmochan never connected, and WeChat always showed that the other party had been removed from friends. She went to Shin Group, but the security guard wouldn't let her in. She went to the Shin family villa, only to find that the owner there had changed. She was like a discarded toy, losing everything overnight, all because of you. And Qing stood up abruptly, pointing at Su Wanyan's nose. What means did you use to force Emochan to leave me? Do you think you can do whatever you want? Just because you're the eldest daughter of the Su family. Su Wanyan sat on the rattan chair, serenity in her expression as she watched her. Missin, you've gotten one thing wrong. It wasn't me who forced Shinmochan away from you. It was me who handed him over to you. And Qing was stunned. I have filed for divorce from Shinmochan. The divorce agreement should reach his hands in the next couple of days. Aren't you the one who wants him? I'll give him to you. From now on you two can be together openly, without sneaking around, and without fearing that I'll find out. And Qing opened her mouth, a look of disbelief on her face. You really want a divorce? Really? Why? Su Wanyan stood up, walked to the osmanthus tree, reached out to pick a flower, and placed it by her nose to gently smell it. Because he doesn't deserve it. When she said these 4 words, her voice was very soft, as faint as a sigh, and Qing stood in place. Suddenly not knowing what to say, she had come today intending to have a big quarrel with Su Wanyin, to force her to leave Shinmochin, but she never expected that Su Wanyin didn't care about Shinmochin at all. This is completely different from what she had imagined. Listen, let me give you a warning. Su Wanyin turned around to look at her. A man like Shinmochin, if he can betray me, he can betray you as well. Today he abandoned his 5-year wife for you. Tomorrow he will abandon you for someone else. You think you're the winner, but you're actually just his next prey. And Qing's face alternated between red and white. Why you stop scaring people like that here? Maching is sincere with me, really? Su Wanyin smiled. He was sincere with me at the time too. When we got married, he knelt in front of me and said he would love only me for the rest of his life. So what happened? In less than 5 years, he couldn't even remember my birthday. She gently placed the gardenia in her hand on the tea table. Listen, I don't hate you. To be honest, I actually want to thank you. If it weren't for you, I might still be trapped in that marriage and unable to get out. It was you who let me see Shinmochin's true colors clearly. And Qing bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes. She wasn't moved by it. She was completely overwhelmed by Su Wanyin's aura. She had originally thought she came to proclaim sovereignty, but in the end she was led by Su Wanyin all the way from start to finish. Every word Su Wanyin spoke pierced into her most painful spot, leaving her with not even the strength to retort. Send our guest away. He-ma immediately came over and gave Qing a pleased gesture, and Qing stood still. She looked at Su Wanyin and suddenly asked, You really don't want him anymore? I don't want it anymore. Do you regret it? Su Wanyin sat back down in the wicker chair, picked up the already cold tea, and took a small sip. Listen, did you know? The gardenia blooms every year, but each flower only lasts a few days. When it blooms, it's beautiful. Once the bloom period passes, it withers, but it's okay. There will be new flowers next year. She put down her teacup and looked up at Qing. People are not like flowers. Once a person's heart turns cold, it's never warm again. And Qing was finally sent out by Mother He, half dragged and half pushed. When she walked out of the Su family's gate, she glanced back at Su Wanyin in the yard. That woman still sat under the gardenia tree, quietly sipping her tea, as if nothing had happened just now. Qing suddenly felt a bone-ch chilling cold. She had always thought Su Wanyin was her rival, someone she needed to defeat, but now she realizes that Su Wanyin simply never takes her seriously. In Su Wanyin's eyes, she and Shinmochin have already become things that were discarded. Qing clenched her fist and took out her phone to dial a number. Hey, it's me. Please check which hotel Shinmochin is staying at right now. The person on the other end of the line gave a hotel name, and Qing hung up the phone, flagged down a taxi, and headed straight to the hotel. She was not willing to give up. She spent half a year, using so many means, to barely snatch Shinmochin away from Su Wanying's. Wait, the name is Su Wanyin. It should be Su Wanyin. The text, Shinmochin, Su Wanyin. I'll translate accurately. She spent half a year and went through so many tricks to finally wrest Shinmochin away from Su Wanyin. Now Su Wanyin says she doesn't want him, so does that mean this whole half year was a joke? No, she absolutely cannot let Shinmochin return to Su Wanying's side. When Qing arrived at the hotel, it was already evening. She went straight to the top floor presidential suite, stood at the doorway, took a deep breath, and then knocked. The door opened. Shinmochin stood at the door and saw it was her, and his brows immediately knitted together. Why are you here? And Qing's eyes turned red, and tears fell as if on cue. Machin, why did you block me? What did I do wrong? Shinmochin watched her crying. The pear blossomed with rain look, and a sudden wave of indescribable irritation surged in his heart. When Qing cried in the past, he would be overwhelmed with heartache and wish he could pluck all the stars from the sky to give to her. But now when he sees her cry, what appears in his mind is Su Wanyin sitting in the Su family's living room, calmly saying, I've waited for you for 5 years. Enough. Why is the gap between women so big? Qing, this is over between us. Qing's crying stopped abruptly. She lifted her head, tears blurred in her eyes, and looked at Shinmochin. What did you say? I said it's over. In these 6 months I've spent 150 million on you, not treating you badly. The house and car all go to you. From now on we have no relation at all. Shinmochin, and Qing screamed, You can't treat me like this. You said you loved me. You said you would marry me. Shinmochin looked at her coldly. When did I say I'd marry you? And Qing froze. Yeah, Shinmochin had never said he would marry her. He gave her money, took her out to have fun, whispered sweet nothings in her ear, but he never said he would divorce to marry her. Every time Qing brought up the topic, Shinmochin would find an excuse to change the subject. She had always thought it was because Su Wanyin wouldn't divorce, but now that Su Wanyin herself wants a divorce, Shinmochin has dumped her. Is it because of Su Wanyin? Right, and Qing's voice became sharp. You saw she was leaving, you can't bear her money, so you dumped me. Shinmochin, you really are a bastard. Shinmochin's face sank. Are you done talking yet? No, and Qing screamed hysterically. Do you know how much I sacrificed for you? I've stuck with you for half a year, and you say you want to dump me now? It's not that easy. Shinmochin sneered. Paying what? What have you paid? Spent my money, lived in my house, driven my car, traveled all over the world. Is this what you call paying? Anqing was choked and unable to speak. Anqing, we're all adults here. Don't make this so ugly. I've given you enough things already to ensure you live well for the rest of your life. Now, please leave. After speaking, Shinmochin closed the door. Anqing stood in the hallway, looking at the tightly closed door, and tears finally streamed down her face, not because of sadness, but because of anger and unwillingness. She pulled out her phone and found a number. Hello, it's me. There's no need to look into the thing I asked you to investigate last time. Now I want you to help me with something else. A hoarse voice came from the other end of the line. What is it? A hint of madness flashed in Qing's eyes. I want to ruin Shinmochin's reputation. Chapter 7. That woman in Qing really keeps her word. The next morning, as soon as Shinmochin walked into the Shin Group building, he sensed something was off. The front desk clerk gave him a strange look, and the employees he met in the elevator kept their heads down, afraid to look at him. He had just sit in the office when Assistant Xiaoqun rushed in a panic. Mr. Shin, something big has happened. Xiaoqun handed over his phone, the screen showing the Weibo hot search list. The top entry read clearly, the Shin Group's president is having an affair with a third-tier model, honeymooning on a private island in the Maldives. Second place, Mrs. Shin sells the villa, with 20 billion in dowry. Vanished. Third place. In Qing, Shinmochin's hand trembled suddenly, almost dropping the phone to the ground. He opened the first hot search, which contained an interview video of Qing. In the video, Qing is crying like pear blossoms with rain, facing the camera and saying, I and Mr. Shin were indeed together. He said he loved me and would marry me. I did so much for him, but as soon as his wife made a scene, he dumped me. Now I have nothing left. The comments below have exploded. That man is utterly scummy. Not cherishing his wife when she was there, regretting when she leaves, so disgusting, feeling sorry for Mrs. Shin, a dowry of 2 billion, what kind of woman must she be to endure this for so long? Anqing isn't any good either, knowing she has a wife but still attaching herself. I will never buy anything from Shin Group again. Shinmochin's forehead vein bulged as he watched. He grabbed the phone on the table and dialed Anqing's number. This time Anqing took it on. Anqing, are you crazy? On the other end of the line, Anqing's laughter came through, laughter with a nearly manic pleasure. Crazy, Shinmochin, you were the one who wronged me first. When you blacklisted me, did you not think about the consequences? When you kicked me out of the Su family to humiliate me, did you not think about the consequences? What exactly do you want? What do I want? And Qing's laughter stopped. I don't want anything. I want to see you ruined right now. See the Shin Group go bankrupt. See you have nothing, then you and I will be the same person. Shinmochin's hand holding the microphone trembled slightly. You don't know that what you're doing isn't good for you either. And Qing, do you still want to stay in this circle in the future? I've long been unable to survive. And Qing's voice turned icy. From the moment you dumped me, I've been a joke in this circle. Since we're all jokes, why not make this joke bigger? Shinmochin, don't think you can walk away with a respectable appearance. The phone snapped off with a slam. Shinmochin slumped in the chair, his mind a blank. Things unfolded much faster than he had imagined. In the morning, the Shin Group stock price opened down 8%. By noon, the decline had widened to 15 points, and its market value had evaporated by nearly 30 billion. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Shin Group's shareholders urgently held an extraordinary board meeting. The atmosphere in the meeting room was terribly oppressive. A dozen shareholders sat around the long table, and everyone's face looked unhappy. When Shinmochin walked into the conference room, all eyes focused on him. Those gazes carried anger, disappointment, contempt, and some meanings that he couldn't quite understand. The second largest shareholder of the Shin Group who spoke first was an elderly man surnamed Shou, in his teens or early 20s, note, male, unclear age, President Shin. I called you here today to hear your explanation in person. Are those things on Weibo true or not? Shinmochin was silent for a few seconds, then said, It's true. The meeting room erupted in an uproar. Old man Zhou slammed the table hard. Nonsense, pure nonsense. As the head of the Shin Group, you actually do this. Do you know how much the company's market value evaporated this morning? 30 billion. Old Zhou is right. Another shareholder added, Mr. Shin, we shouldn't interfere with your personal life, but this matter has now seriously affected the company's interests. Clients are calling, partners are calling. How do you expect us to explain to people? And that in Qing, a middle-aged female shareholder spoke coldly. What she said in the video has completely ruined the Shin Group's image. Now the whole internet is boycotting Shin's products. Sales have plummeted. Mr. Shin, who will bear this loss? Shinmochin lowered his head and said nothing. Old Mr. Zhou spoke again, this time in a heavier tone. President Shin, the shareholders just discussed it. Given your current situation, you are no longer suitable to continue serving as president of the Shin Group. Shinmochin tossed his head up. What do you mean? It means we hope you will voluntarily resign from the presidency. It will be better for you and better for the company. Why should I? Shinmochin stood up, hands on the edge of the table. The Shin Group was founded by my father with his own hands. I've run it for so many years. You want me to leave just like that? Old man Zhou looked at him coldly. The Shin Group was indeed founded by your father, but it is not the private property of the Shin family. We are shareholders, and we must be responsible for the company's interests. Your personal image is collapsing now, and staying in the president position will only cause greater losses to the company. I disagree. You may disagree, but it's useless. Old Mr. Zhou took a document from his briefcase and placed it on the table. According to the company bylaws, if more than 2/3 of the shareholders agree, the board can dismiss the president. The shareholders present now, together with the shares they hold, already exceed 70%. Mr. Shin, do you think you still have a chance? Shinmochin's gaze swept over the faces of every shareholder. Those people used to treat him with deference, calling him President Shin. Now, one by one, they were tumbling him down, wishing they could swallow him whole. He suddenly found it ridiculous. At that moment, the door to the meeting room was suddenly pushed open. Everyone turned to look, and then everyone froze. The person who walked in was Su Wanning. She wore a black professional suit today, her long hair tied up, light makeup, and she looked capable and calm. Behind her walked Attorney Zhou, holding a briefcase. Miss Su, Miss Su. Old Mr. Zhou saw Su Wanning, immediately stood up, and his expression became a little subtle. Su Wanning walked to the conference table, and Attorney Zhou immediately pulled out a chair for her. She sat down, her gaze calmly sweeping over everyone present. Everyone, sorry to interrupt. I'm here today to clarify a few things in front of everyone. Shinmochin looked at her, and his throat felt stuffed with cotton. Wanning. Su Wanning did not look at him. Instead, she took a document from Lawyer Zhou and placed it on the table. The first thing is that the divorce agreement between me and Shinmochin was officially signed yesterday. Legally speaking, I have no relation with him anymore. A murmur rose in the conference room. Second matter. Su Wanning took out the second document. This is the loan receipt for the 100 million in cash that Shin Group borrowed from me 3 years ago. At that time, Shinmochin promised to repay within 2 years, but up to now I haven't received a single penny. Old Mr. Zhou's expression changed. Shinmochin's face went whiter than paper. The third matter. Su Wanyan took out the third document. This is the financial investigation report on the Shin Group that I commissioned Lawyer Zhou to prepare. The investigation shows that Shinmochin has embezzled at least 40 million yuan from the company funds over the past 6 months, using it to pay for various expenses for Qing. With this statement, the meeting room instantly erupted. Embezzling company funds, 40 million. Shinmochin, you've gone mad. Shinmochin's lips trembled violently. He wanted to argue, but he couldn't say anything, because what Su Wanning's said was all true. The 150 million yuan he gave to Qinghua, besides the 100 million working capital Su Wanning had given earlier, and the 40 million that was indeed siphoned from the company's accounts, he had planned to make up the shortfall later with dividends, but how things developed far exceeded his control. Su Wanning stood up, looking at Shinmochin. I'm here today not to kick someone when they're down. I just want all the shareholders to know the truth. Shinmochin's problem isn't just infidelity, he's committing crimes. After saying this, she turned and walked out of the conference room. When she reached the door, Shinmochin suddenly spoke. Wanning. Su Wanning paused, but did not turn back. Have you never loved me? Su Wanning was silent for a long time. The meeting room was so quiet that even a pin could be heard falling to the ground, and then she said, I have loved before, Shinmochin. Who said he would make me the happiest woman in the world? I truly loved, but he is already dead, dead on those nights when he never came home, dead in those lie-filled phone calls, dead in every moment when he held another woman. She pushed the door open and walked away without looking back. In the conference room, Shinmochin slumped in his chair, his face ashen. Old Mr. Zhou picked up that financial investigation report, examined it for a few minutes, and then slammed it heavily on the table. Shout for help. Chapter 8. It's not because of how much money she has, nor because of how good her background is, but because when she says she can let go, she really can. After the divorce, Su Wanning didn't fall into despair, nor did she hide at home weeping as some people had expected. She showed everyone with her actions what it means to leave you and live better. In the first week after the divorce procedures were completed, Su Wanning rented a 3-story old villa on Nanjing West Road in Shanghai. The villa was built during the Republic of China era, with red brick walls and arched windows, and in the yard there is a parasol tree that is over 100 years old. The previous owners were an elderly couple who lived here all along. Later, their children went abroad, and the house was left empty. When Su Wanning laid eyes on this villa, she told Lawyer Zhou, this is it. Lawyer Zhou is a bit worried. Wanning, this house is truly well located, but it's old and dilapidated. If we remodel, it will cost a lot of money. Su Wanning smiled. Uncle Zhou, I have enough money now to buy this entire street. Lawyer Zhou was taken aback, then burst into hearty laughter. Yes, with $2 billion in hand, what can she not do? Renovation took 2 months. During these 2 months, Su Wanning almost every day spent time on the construction site, discussing every detail with the designer, from the color of the floor to the pattern of the curtains, from the style of tableware to the placement of green plants. Leaving nothing to chance, she plans to turn this old Western style house into a private home cuisine restaurant. Su Wanning's cooking skills have actually always been very good. During the 5 years at the Shin family, she would idle around and study cooking. The family's hired chef instead became her apprentice. Shinmochin never ate dinner at home, so he never knew how good his wife's culinary skills were. On the opening day of the private restaurant, Su Wanning gave it a name, Wan Qing. Wan is the Wan in her name, Qing is the Qing in the phrase after. The rain clears. There weren't many customers on opening day, only a few of Su Wanning's close friends and some of Su Xinghong's old business associates, but every one of them gave a thumbs up after tasting the dishes she made. Lin Yu, Su Wanning's close friend, was stunned after taking the first bite of the dongpa pork. Wanyan, did you make this? Oh my goodness, your craftsmanship is better than a Michelin chef. Does Shinmochin know what he's missing? Su Wanning smiled and poured her another cup of tea. He doesn't know, and it doesn't matter anymore. Lin Yu looked at Su Wanning's smile and suddenly felt a bit of sourness in her nose. She and Su Wanning have known each other since high school, more than 10 years of friendship. After Su Wanning married Shinmochin, she watched helplessly as Su Wanning gradually became silent, stopped loving to smile, and lived like a shadow in the big villa of the Shin family. Now it's fine. That cheerful Su Wanning has finally come back. Wanning, how do you plan to run this shop? How many tables do you serve each day? Su Wanning thought for a moment. Only 3 tables per day, 1 at noon, 2 in the evening. I will decide the menu. Customers cannot order dishes themselves. Lin Yu widened her eyes. Are you running a business or playing around? Only 3 tables a day. How much money can you make? I wasn't in it for the money to begin with. Su Wanning picked up the teacup, gently blew on the tea leaves floating on top. I just want to do something I enjoy. When I was in the Shin family, I waited every day for him to come home for dinner, and after 5 years I still hardly had a few chances. Now I don't want to wait anymore. I want those who truly know how to cherish to eat the meals I make. Lin Yu looked at her, suddenly giving her a tight hug. Wanning, you've really changed for better or worse. Become yourself again. In the 2nd month since Wanqing's private kitchen opened, reservations were already booked. For 3 months later, the diners were a diverse lot. Business elites introduced by Su Xinghong, fashion circle friends brought by Lin Yu, and purely curious diners who had heard of it. But no matter who they were, Su Wanning treated everyone equally. She personally took charge of every dish, never delegating. One evening, a special guest arrived. There was a man who looked to be just over 30. Wearing a simple white shirt and black trousers, his features were deep, and his demeanor was clean. He came alone, no appointment, and standing at the doorway he bashfully asked, "Excuse me, Are there any seats left? The waiter was about to speak when Su Wanyin just happened to come out from the kitchen. She saw the man at the door and was a little taken aback. Senior Lu, the man looked up, and when he saw Su Wanyin, a surprised expression appeared on his face. Wanyin, why are you here? The man is Lu Yanzhou, Su Wanying's senior from university. 2 years ahead of her, he was the president of the student union back then, a standout figure. After graduation, he reportedly went abroad to develop his career, and today she didn't expect to meet him here. This shop is mine, Su Wanying said with a smile. Senior, why did you come back to China? Lu Yanzhou stepped in, examining the shop's decor. His eyes showed unmistakable appreciation. I was just reassigned back to China last month. The company opened a branch in Shanghai, and I came back to oversee it. Today I happened to pass by and found this villa-style house quite special, so I wanted to take a look. I didn't expect it to be your shop. He paused, looking at Su Wanying. I've heard about your situation. Su Wanying's smile hasn't changed. Just heard about it. That's all. It's not something shameful or anything. Lu Yanzhou looked at her, a trace of complicated emotion flashing in his eyes. Actually, he has always known Su Wanying. In college, Su Wanying was the belle of the foreign languages department. Suitors lined up from the library to the canteen. Lu Yanzhou liked her back then too, but he never said a word, because at that time Su Wanying's eyes only had Shin Mochen, the man who came to pick her up every Friday afternoon in a black Mercedes. Later, when he heard she married Shin Mochen, Lu Yanzhou's hope completely died. After going abroad, he threw himself into work and did not return to the country for 10 years. Later on, he saw news abroad that Shin Mochen had an affair. That night, Lu Yanzhou sat in the apartment for a long time, pulling out a college student council group photo. In the photo, Su Wanying stood at the far right in the second row, smiling with curved eyes, and the whole person seemed to glow. He thought at that moment, if he had been a bit braver back then, would the outcome be different now? Senior, since you came, stay for a meal. Su Wanying's voice pulled his thoughts back to reality. The guest tonight cancelled at the last minute. I'll cook you a few signature dishes. Lu Yanzhou looked at her. Wouldn't that trouble you too much? No trouble at all. Cooking is something I enjoy. Su Wanying asked the waiter to bring Lu Yanzhou to a window seat on the second floor, then turned and went into the kitchen. That night, Su Wanying cooked 4 dishes for Lu Yanzhou. The first dish is drunken shrimp, made with live shrimp imported from Zhoushan that morning, marinated in aged Huabiao wine for 3 hours. The shrimp meat is fresh, sweet, and bouncy, with a rich wine aroma that is not overpowering. The second dish is crab meat and tofu with crab roe, hand-picked fresh hairy crab from Daza crab, crab roe and crab meat, paired with silky soft-shelled tofu, melting in the mouth, so delicious that it makes you want to swallow your tongue. The third dish is braised pork, using Jinhua 2-headed black pork belly. It's simmered over low heat for 4 hours, fat but not greasy, lean yet not dry. Even the quail eggs accompanying the dish soak up the meat juice, and a bite yields a burst of juice. The fourth dish is a simple bowl of plain noodles in clear broth. The noodles are chewy, with a runny yolk egg resting on top, sprinkled with a handful of chopped scallions. After Lu Yanzhou finished the first bite of the drunken shrimp, he was stunned. Wanning, these dishes of yours, what's the matter? Not tasty, not. Lu Yanzhou put down his chopsticks and looked at her seriously. They're too delicious. I've eaten at many restaurants in my life, even quite a few Michelin 3-star ones, but these dishes you've made are more delicious than those chefs. It's not a matter of technique, your food carries emotions. Su Wanying sat across from him and smiled faintly when she heard this. You sure know how to talk, senior. I'm speaking the truth. Lu Yanzhou picked up the bowl of plain noodles, took a bite, and fell silent. After a long while, he spoke again. The taste of this bowl of noodles reminds me of my grandmother. When I was a child, I lived at my grandmother's house. Every morning she would cook me a bowl of plain noodles. The taste is just like this. Su Wanying looked at him, something sparkling in her eyes. My grandma is from Suzhou, she said. This bowl of noodles is what I learned from her. The old lady said, the simplest things are the hardest to do, because there is nothing fancy to hide clumsiness. A bowl of plain spring noodles. The broth must be clear, the noodles should be firm, the scallions fragrant, the egg with a runny yolk. Missing even one thing won't do. Lu Yanzhou looked up at her. So you've always remembered what your grandma said. I used to forget. Su Wanying's voice was soft. In those years at the Shin family, I forgot many things, forgot what I liked to do, forgot the lessons my grandma taught me, forgot who I am. Su Wanying, not just Mrs. Shin. She paused for a moment, a faint smile her lips. thinking of it now, that night, Lu Yanzhou stayed in Wenhui until very late before leaving. When he was leaving, he stood at the doorway, glanced back at the red brick bungalow lit with warm lights, the poplar leaves rustled in the wind, and in the courtyard Su Wanning had personally planted gardenia buds that were about to bloom in a few days. Can I come again in the future? Su Wanning stood at the doorway, wearing a white apron, her hair loosely pinned up with a hairpin, a thin layer of sweat on her face. She smiled. Of course you can. But next time remember to make an appointment, Lu Yanzhou also smiled. Okay, I'll make an appointment tomorrow. Since that day, Lu Yanzhou became a regular at Wanqing. He comes at least 3 times a week. Sometimes he comes at noon to eat a bowl of plain noodles, other times in the evening, sitting on the window seat on the second floor, eating the dishes Su Wanning makes when she's in a good mood. He never says what he wants to eat. Whatever Su Wanning makes, he eats. And each time he finishes the plate completely. One time, Lin Yu came to the shop for a meal and saw Lu Yanzhou sitting in the old seat, eating a steamed base with such gusto that she couldn't help but lean towards Su Wanning's ear and whisper, "That Lu Senior, is he into you?" Su Wanning was chopping vegetables, and the knife paused in her hand. Don't talk nonsense. How am I talking nonsense? Lin Yu counts on her fingers, 3 times a week, rain or shine. It only takes 40 minutes by car from Pudong to come here just to eat a bowl of noodles you make, whatever you cook, he eats it, never picky. When you talk to him, the look in his eyes almost turns people into stone. If this isn't interesting, I, Lin Yu, would write the 2 characters the other way around. Su Wanning puts the chopped scallions into the bowl without saying a word. Lin Yu looks at her, suddenly putting away the playful expression, seriously says, "Wanning, I know you just got divorced. Maybe this is too soon to say. But what I want to tell you is, not all men are like Shinmaching. You deserve to be treated well." Su Wanning was silent for a long time, then said softly, "I know." The days passed day after day like this. Wanqing's private kitchen's reputation grew wider and wider. Reservations were already booked for 6 months later. A food magazine came for an interview. Su Wanning refused. A TV station wanted to film a documentary. Su Wanning also refused. Someone offered a sky-high investment to open a branch. Su Wanning still refused. She said, "I just want to cook the dishes I like, for those who know how to cherish them. If there's too much, it loses its flavor." Su Jinghong comes over for meals every now and then. The old man never calls ahead when he visits. He sits on the second floor, waiting for his daughter to cook for him. Su Wanning doesn't mind the trouble either, trying new dishes for him. Today steamed sea bass, tomorrow scallion braised sea cucumber. The day after tomorrow crab roe lion's head. As Su Jinghong ate, his eyes welled up. "Dad, what's wrong with you?" Su Jinghong put down his chopsticks and wiped at the corner of his eye with a napkin. "It's nothing. Just, I feel like you're finally back." Su Wanning's nose pricked with sourness, and she held her father's hand. "Dad, I'm sorry for making you worry." Su Jinghong shook his head. "Don't say sorry. You being able to come out, that makes me happier than anything." The garden's gardenia finally bloomed. It was transplanted by Su Wanning from the old Su family house and planted in Wanqing's yard. On the morning the flowers bloomed, the moment Su Wanning pushed open the door, a familiar fragrance rushed to her face, and she stood at the doorway and suddenly cried, not because of sadness, because of relief. When the gardenia bloomed last year, she was still sitting in the living room of the Shin family villa, waiting for a person who would not return, in front of a table full of dishes. This year, when the gardenia bloomed, she stood in her own small shop she built with her own hands, the courtyard full of flowers, the kitchen filled with scents she loves, and upstairs guests waiting to eat her dishes. This year, she was like that transplant gardenia, changing soil, taking root again, and then blooming flowers more fragrant than before. Chapter 9. The embezzlement case was processed very quickly. Lawyer Zhou personally brought the financial investigation report to report it. The evidence was solid, and Shinmachin had no room for a rebuttal. The whole of 10,000, a huge deficit, is something Shinmachin can't pull out. His money had almost been spent already, for buying a house and a car for Inqing, more than 100 million yuan. A private island in the Maldives had cost 30 million, plus the extravagant expenses over the past half year. His cash on hand under his name was less than 10 million. The old house of the Shin family belongs to his father and cannot be moved. The shares of the Shin group are valuable, but after the stock Price plummeted, they have dropped by more than half, and they are frozen and cannot be traded. In the end, his mother, with tears in her eyes, took out her own pension money, and then frantically scraped together help from relatives and friends. It was only with great effort that they managed to cobble together $40 million to fill the company's hole. The money has been paid back, but the person can't get away. During the trial, lawyer Zhou, on behalf of Su Wanning, submitted a victim's statement. The statement detailed Shin Yukin's extramarital affairs during the marriage and the fact that he embezzled Su Wanning's premarital property. After reading the statement, the judge looked up at Shin Yukin, his eyes filled with contempt. The final verdict: 3 years of fixed-term imprisonment, with a 1-year probation, because all the embezzled funds were returned and there was a confession. The court granted probation, but Shin Yukin's life had already been completely ruined. The Shin Group held a shareholders meeting and officially removed him from the position of president. The new president is his cousin Shin Mayu, a young man a little over 30 who returned from studying abroad. Shin Machin walked out of the courthouse to find a large crowd of reporters outside. The flashbulbs popped and snapped non-stop, and the microphones nearly stabbed into his face. Mr. Shin, what is your take on the verdict? Mr. Shin and Qing posted on Weibo that you were framed by Su Wanning. Do you agree, Mr. Shin? I heard Su Wanning's private home-cooked restaurant is doing very well now. Have you been there? Shin Machin lowered his head and said nothing, squeezed through the crowd with Zhao Qinyan's help, and slipped into the car. When the car drove out of the courthouse gates, he suddenly spoke. Uncle Zhao, is her shop's business really doing very well? Zhao Qinyan held the steering wheel, remained silent for a moment before answering. Yes, Weijing Private Kitchen is now booked 6 months in advance. A food magazine ranked her as the #1 private kitchen in Shanghai. Most worth visiting this year. Shin Machin leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. Images of Su Wanning busy in the kitchen surfaced in his mind. During those 5 years, Su Wanning had told him countless times, Machin, I learned a new dish today, would you come home for dinner tonight? He always said yes, and then every time, she breaks her word. He has never tasted a meal that Su Wanning cooked seriously, not even once. Uncle Zhao, is the dish she made delicious? Zhao Qinyan's eye socket suddenly reddened. Delicious, President Shin. The dishes my wife makes are the best in all of Shanghai. It's a pity you never tasted them. Shin Machin did not say anything else. He closed his eyes, his eyelashes trembling slightly. The rain outside was getting heavier and heavier. In the first month after Shin Machin was released from prison, he did something no one expected. He went to Lake Clear Private Kitchen. That day was a weekend evening, and Su Wanning was busy in the kitchen. Waiter Xiao Zhang ran in and said, Sister Su, someone came outside without an appointment, but he said he wants to see you. Su Wanning didn't look up. If there's no appointment, tell him to make one, and tell him the current appointments are booked for 6 months from now. I told him that, but he said, Xiao Zhang faltered, he says his name is Shin Machin. Su Wanning's hand stopped. She set the kitchen knife down, wiped her hands, and stepped out of the kitchen. Shin Machin stood at the door of Wonking, wearing a washed-out shirt, with a scruffy beard. His hair had grown long, and he looked much thinner, with his cheekbones protruding. He stood under that sycamore tree, fidgeting as he watched Su Wanning's come out. Su Wanning wore a white chef uniform, her hair tucked under the hat, a thin layer of sweat on her face. She had gained a little weight since the divorce, her cheeks had returned to their former fullness, her eyes bright, and she looked healthy and spirited overall. Why are you here? Shin Machin opened his mouth, his voice hoarse. I want to taste the dishes you make. Su Wanning looked at him, silent for a long time. The garden's gardenia blossoms are in full bloom, its fragrance so strong it's hard to disperse. Did Uncle Zhao tell you? Yeah. Su Wanning turned and walked toward the shop. Shin Machin thought she had rejected him, and his heart sank to the bottom, but when she reached the door, she suddenly stopped. Come in. Shin Machin stood frozen in place, as if he had heard wrongly. What are you spacing out for? Aren't you going to eat the dishes I cooked? He hurried to catch up. Su Wanning arranged him at a small table in the far corner on the first floor. That spot was very remote, right next to the kitchen door, and only regulars would sit there. Shin Machin sat down, surveying the little shop, red brick walls, wooden tables and chairs, a row of gardenias on the windowsill, and warm yellow lights that made the space feel cozy and quiet. This place was completely different from the cold riverside villa where the Shin family lived. This was Su Wanning's world, every corner carrying her warmth and trace. About 20 minutes or so later, Su Wanning carried out a tray and walked out. On the tray there was only a bowl of noodles, a bowl of plain noodles, clear broth, simple and light. The noodles were chewy, with a soft centered egg resting on top. and a small handful of chopped scallions sprinkled over. Eat up, Shinmochan looked at the bowl of noodles, as if something was stuck in his throat. He picked up the chopsticks, plucked up a mouthful of noodles, and fed it into his mouth. Then his tears began to fall. Zhao Qinyin was right. Suwanen's cooking is the best in all of Shanghai. This bowl of plain noodles looks simple, but the broth was simmered for hours with the aged mother chicken, ham, and conpoy. The noodles were kneaded by her own hands. The fried egg with a crisp edge and a runny center, and even the scallions were grown by her in her own yard. Every bite is a display of skill, every bite carries her intention, but he had never known these things before. Is it tasty? Suwanin sat opposite him. In a calm tone, Shinmochan lowered his head, tears dripping one by one into the bowl of noodles. So tasty, then finish it, don't waste. Shinmochan cried as he ate the bowl of noodles clean, not leaving a drop of soup behind. After finishing his meal, he set down his chopsticks and looked up at Suwaning. Wanning, don't say anything. Suwaning cut him off. Don't say anything at all. She stood up and looked at the sycamore tree outside the window. I let you in today to cook this bowl of noodles for you, not because I have forgiven you, it's because I want you to know what you've missed. S lips trembled violently. This bowl of plain noodles is the first dish I learned. Grandmother taught me, in the first year of marriage. I cooked it once and called you back to eat. You said you had business at the company and couldn't come back. The noodles were overcooked, so I dumped them out. Suwaning's voice was very calm, so calm that it sounded like she was telling a story that had nothing to do with her. Later I did it many times again. Every time you said you would come back, every time you didn't. Later I just stopped doing it. She turned around and looked at him. Today's bowl of noodles is a reckoning for the past 5 years. From now on, do not come to me again, Shin. Machin stood up, lips trembling. Wan Ning, I know I was wrong. Give me a chance, I'll change, I really will. Suwanin shook her head. You have no chance left. It's not that I won't give you one, you have squandered all your opportunities yourself. She pointed at the door. Please. Shinmochan stood in place, looking at Suwanin's face. That face bore no hatred, nor resentment, only a very faint, very calm tranquility. What is scarier than hatred is not caring at all. He trudged toward the doorway, his steps heavy. When he reached the door, he suddenly stopped. Wan Ning, can I ask you one last question? Suwaning did not reply. If I had gone home to eat every day back then, what would we be like now? Suwaning was silent for a long, long time. Some garden gardenia petals were blown down by the wind onto the blue-gray stone slabs, white as snow. I don't know, she finally said. Because that Shinmochan never existed. Shinmochan shot one last look at her, then pushed the door open and stepped into the night beyond. The door closed softly behind him. The taste of that bowl of plain noodles still lingered on his tongue, fresh, warm, with a hint of scallion and lard fragrance. That was the flavor Suwanin had honed over 5 years, but he only tasted it this once. Zhao Qinyan's car was parked at the entrance to the alley. Shinmochan pulled open the car door and got in, his whole body seeming to have been drained of all strength. Uncle Zhao. President Shin, she said that Shinmochan never existed. Zhao Qinyan did not speak, but Uncle Zhao, I regret it. His voice echoed in the carriage, but no one answered. Chapter 10. 3 days after Shinmochan left Wanqing, Li Yanzhou came again. That noon on Tuesday was not the time he usually came. Suwaning saw him standing at the door and was somewhat surprised. Senior, why are you here at noon today? Didn't you say you were going on a business trip this week? Li Yanzhou smiled. And there was something in his smile that Suwaning couldn't quite understand. The business trip was cancelled. I came today because there is something I want to tell you. Suwaning led him to the old spot on the second floor and poured him a cup of tea. What's the matter? Li Yanzhou took a manila envelope from his briefcase and pushed it across the table. Suwaning opened the envelope. Inside was a contract. Is this? I have an idle property over in Pudong. It was originally planned to be an office building, but after I visited Wanqing last month, I suddenly felt that place is more suitable for a restaurant. Li Yanzhou lightly tapped the table with his fingers. I want to hand it over to you to open Wanqing's second store. Suwaning froze. Senior, I told you before, I don't want to open a branch store. I know. Li Yanzhou interrupted her. So this isn't an investment, it's a collaboration. The store's ownership is still mine, you run it. And profits are split 50 to 50. If you don't want to go big, that's fine, you can make that store into a completely different style, for example, specialize in Suzhou-style snacks, or only do lunch hours, do whatever you want, I won't interfere. Su Wanning looked at that contract and fell silent. Li Yanzhou continued, Wanning, I'm not helping you, I'm helping myself. Do you know how long in advance I have to make a reservation when I come to Wanqing to eat? 2 months, every time I want to eat a dish you make. I have to wait 2 months. When he said this, a childish sense of grievance showed on his face, which made Su Wanqing smile. So you opened a branch for your own convenience. Su Wanning's heartbeat suddenly skipped a beat. I liked you back in college. The parasol tree outside the window rustled loudly in the wind. The light on the second floor softly shone on the two people. At that time I didn't dare to say it, because you had Shinmachan. Later you married him. I went abroad. I thought time would make me forget, but 10 years have passed, and I haven't forgotten. Li Yanzhou's voice was very light, as if she were speaking a secret she had kept for a long, long time. During these years abroad, I've had girlfriends and I've thought about settling down, but each time, it ended without conclusion. I've always believed I just hadn't met the right person. Until that day I walked into Wanqing and saw you coming out of the kitchen. Wearing an apron, he paused. I realized then that it wasn't that I hadn't met the right person had already met me, I had just missed one. Su Wanning's hand clenched slightly around the teacup. Senior, you don't have to give me an answer right now. Li Yanzhou stood up, pushing the contract in front of her. You can read it first, and tell me when you've decided. Whether it's about the cooperation or those things I just said, I'll wait for you. He turned and walked toward the staircase. After a few steps, he stopped again. 10 years ago I missed one opportunity. This time, I don't want to miss it again. Then he went downstairs. Su Wanning sat in place, looking at the contract on the table, and didn't move for a long time. The leaves of the phoenix trees outside the window fell and grew again, and the garden's gardenia flowers bloomed and withered again. 3 months later, the second store of Wanqing opened in Pudong. The restaurant is called Evening Ship. Evening belongs to Su Wanning, the boat belongs to Li Yanzhou. Many people came on the opening day. Su Jinghong sat at the main table, watching his daughter bustling about, and the smile on his face never faded. Lin Yu held Su Wanning's hand, her eyes red, and said, I told you long ago, that Senior Lu has a crush on you. Su Wanning laughed and patted her lightly. You are so chatty. Li Yanzhou stood beside her, in a suit, full of vigor. He looked at Su Wanning with tenderness in his eyes. Boss Su, please take care of me in the future as well. Su Wanning looked up at him, the corner of her mouth curved. Mr. Lu, same here. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Sunlight streamed in through the floor-to-ceiling window, falling on them warm and gentle. Lin Yu watched from the side, eyes welling up again. He whispered to Su Jinghong, Uncle, look at those two. Don't you think they're a perfect match? Su Jinghong raised the teacup and took a sip, then said slowly, much better than my former son-in-law. Everyone laughed. In the afternoon of the same day, Shinmachan sat in the yard of the old Shin residence, staring blankly at a bowl of instant noodles. After he was stripped of the presidency, the Shin family barely interacted with him. His father thought he had shamed the Shin family. His mother felt heartbroken but could do little to help. His cousin Shin Ryu took over the Shin group, and the company slowly regained its vitality, but it no longer had anything to do with him. And Qing visited him once more later, saying she wanted to get back together. Shinmachan directly had Zhao Qingyan drive her out. He heard that she had now hooked up with a real estate boss, and was living quite well, only he has nothing left. The phone suddenly rang. It was a message from Zhao Qingyan. President Shin, Madam, Miss Su's second shop opens today. The store is named Wanzhou. Shinmachan looked at the two characters, and his heart seemed to be hit hard by something. Evening, boat, Su Wanning, Li Yanzhou. He set down his phone, picked up the bowl of instant noodles and took a sip. The noodles were too soft, clumped into a blob, and the broth was salty and greasy. He suddenly recalled the bowl of plain noodles he had eaten that day at Wanqing. Clear broth, thin noodles, a soft-centered egg, a small handful of chopped scallions. Simple, yet it made him remember for a lifetime. That was the first time he tasted a dish made by Su Wanning, and also the last time. The old garden gardenia tree in the yard did not bloom this year. Shinmachan's mother said the tree was old, and might never bloom again in the future. Shinmachan looked at that bare gardenia tree and suddenly remembered what Su Wanning had said. The meaning of gardenia flowers is waiting. Gardenias bloom only once a year, and the flowering period lasts only a short half-month. For the remaining 11.5 months, they wait, waiting for the next summer, waiting for the next bloom. Su Wanning waited for him for 5 years. Now, she no longer waits that. Gardenia tree also isn't blooming anymore. Zhao Qinyan said that later he went to Wanqing to eat a few more times. Of course, he always made reservations in advance, waiting in line for half a year before getting a spot. When Su Wanning saw him come, she still wore that calm look, placing him in the farthest corner on the first floor and serving him a bowl of plain noodles. Yes, only Yangchen noodles, every time Zhao Qinyan visits. Su Wanning's only makes him Yangchen noodles, someone asked her. Why, Su Wanning said, Uncle Zhao is one of the few people in the Shin family who treated me sincerely during those 5 years. That bowl of Yangchen noodles is the best thing I can give him. After listening to this, Zhao Qinyan, who is in his teens, cried like a child. Later, Zhao Qinyan resigned from the Shin family service and came to Lingqing to help. Su Wanning asked him to be in charge of receiving guests at the door, smiling every day, happier than in the Shin family's 20 years. Someone asked him why he was willing to go from being a butler in a big villa to a doorman at a small restaurant. Zhao Qinyan said, in the Shin family I was a butler, here I am Uncle Zhao. Not the same, what's different, he didn't say, but watching him brighten every day, everyone understood. Another year, the 6th month, the garden at Wanqing is full of gardenia blossoms again. This year's flowers are particularly abundant, covering every tree and branch, and the fragrance so strong that the whole alley can smell it. Su Wanning stands under the flowering tree, and Lu Yanzhou stands beside her. This year's flowers are blooming really well, Lu Yanzhou said. Su Wanning reached out to pick a flower, bringing it to her nose to smell it. Yes, this year has been the best blooming year. Lu Yanzhou looked at her, and suddenly pulled out a small box from his pocket. Su Wanning froze. Wanning, I don't want to wait any longer. Lu Yanzhou opened the box. Inside was a ring, very simple and elegant, without a large diamond, only a circle of small, like a ring of tiny gardenia petals. This isn't a marriage proposal, he said. This is a promise. I want to promise you, from now on, every year when the gardenia blooms, I'll be with you to watch. You cook, I wash the dishes, you plant flowers, I water them. Whatever life you want, I'll go through it with you. Su Wanning looked at him, something flashing in her eyes. Just a promise, Lu Yanzhou laughed. For a proposal, I'll prepare it a bit more formally. If I can book it today, would that do? Su Wanning lowered her head and looked at the ring. Sunshine filtered through the branches of the gardenia, shining on the ring, the small diamonds refracting light. She held out her hand. Help me put it on. Lu Yanzhou's hand trembled slightly as he carefully picked up the ring and slid it onto her right ring finger. The ring size was neither too big nor too small. Just right. How did you know my size? Ling, you told me. Su Wanning laughed. When did you two start flirting? What flirting? That's called strategic cooperation. Lu Yanzhou spoke upright and fearless. For today, I treated her to meals for 2 months. Su Wanning laughed and bent over. The scent of gardenia filled the air, and the sunlight warmly shone on the two people in the courtyard. Zhao Qinyan walked out with a plate of freshly washed fruit, saw the scene, and quietly stepped back. He stood at the kitchen door and wiped the corner of his eye. Finally, she is smiling, he muttered to himself, a real, happy smile. At the same time, at the far end of the city, Shin Machin sat in the yard of the Shin family's old residence, a bowl of instant noodles placed on the stone table in front of him. Most of his hair had turned white. He was clearly only in his 30s, yet he looked almost 50. The Shin group was doing better and better under the leadership of the new president, but none of that had anything to do with him. He lived in the annex of the old house, his daily life consisting of eating, sleeping, and staring into space. Sometimes Zhao Qinyan would come to visit him and bring him some food, but Zhao Qinyan came less and less often. That old garden osmanthus tree in the yard still didn't blossom this year. Shin Machin's mother said that this tree might really never bloom again. It gave all its blossoms to those years. The years when Su Wanning was still at the Shin family's house. Now she is gone, and it doesn't bloom anymore. Shin Machin looked at that bare gardenia tree and picked up the bowl of instant noodles. The mound is clumpy, salty and greasy. He took a bite and suddenly remembered the taste of that bowl of plain noodles. It was the best noodles he had ever eaten in his life, and also the noodles he would never be able to eat again in his life. The wind from the yard blows in, but there is no osmanthus scent. There is nothing left. Zhao Qinyan said, "This story ends here." Someone asked him, what happened next? How did Su Wanyan and Lu Yanzhou fare later? Zhao Qinyan laughed and said, later, well, later is another story. In that story there is no betrayal, no tears, only a man who is willing to come home for dinner every day, and a woman who waits for him and has dinner ready for him every day. The garden's gardenias bloom year after year, blooming better each year. As for Shin Machin, Zhao Qinyan fell silent for a long time. and finally said 4 characters, deserved it, end of text.